Full panel here with me now. Mick Mulvaney, back again, former chief of staff in the first Trump administration. Joné Wortel, back-to-back days. How about that? Democratic strategist. Marc Short, former chief of staff to the vice president, Mike Pence. And Scott Bolden, a back-to-back as well, News Nation political contributor. You've been here too, back-to-back. I know, but Joné's rare. So thank you, Mick. I appreciate it.
Don't be jealous.
This report dropped in the New York Times this afternoon, Mark, of greenlighting covert CIA operations in Venezuela. And the president, he was asked about it, and he basically confirmed that something is on the table. And I guess the question is, what's the next step here, given what we've seen from the air in the water?
I can't tell you what the next step is, Blake. I think the reality is that we need to understand that the Maduro regime is an illegitimate regime. If they are a narco-terrorist nation, they've been supported by America's biggest enemies, and they've seized American property. I think the reality is that they are exporting drugs to the United States, and it's serious. But at the same time, I think for the administration to take action of this nature, it probably should go to Congress to get permission.
What about the concept of on land?
That's my same position. I feel like they should go to Congress and ask for permission to do that.
Well, they have to under the law, don't they? And I don't know what a narco-terrorist is. If they're drug dealers, I'm concerned about the legality of bombing and killing drug dealers who may be in international waters, and you anticipate, your intelligence says drugs are coming here. Well, then why not just arrest them and give them a trial or have them send them back to Venezuela? Killing them sends a message, but I'm not sure it's a legal message.
Republicans and Democrats have both mentioned that this is something that is actually an issue in terms of the legality of this. So there's concern on both sides here about what the proper protocol should be and whether this is dangerous. And the reality is that it is.
But we've heard that, right, for like the last couple of weeks. What I thought was a couple different things. One, the report. But then second, the president seemed to confirm, yeah, they could go further.
Yeah, which is what folks are really concerned about, because it's a really dangerous precedent that he's setting that, like you mentioned, killing, folks who could be trafficking drugs in international waters. And so he's creating and transcending a lot of foreign policy here and really setting a dangerous precedent that our allies and enemies could take note of.
You've got a concern of a different kind.
I think people are missing something, which is ordinarily when Trump is asked the question, are you doing something, he'll say, we're not taking anything off the table.
Right.
That's not what he said today. What he said today was, yes, which means that it's probably a lot further down than people realize.
One of the questions that I immediately thought of was obviously the CIA covert operations and how that got out there, Mick.
Yeah, I got a problem with it. I do, and I know we're not going to get a chance to talk tonight about the new policies in place at the Defense Department on the media and so forth, but somebody committed a crime. Somebody did. Somebody leaked classified information to the New York Times, and that's wrong. And the New York Times printed it. Now, you can make the case that maybe that's defensible. I don't think that it is, but somebody committed a crime here, and that needs to be fixed.
All right. Other big story today from Venezuela to China. I thought there was a pretty remarkable scene today. It was the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, the Trade Representative, Jamieson Greer, holding a press conference about China. The back and forth, the whipsaw from Friday to Monday, the market's moving all over the place. Here was Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary.
We don't want to damage their economy. We don't believe that they want to damage ours, but they are a command and control economy, and they are going to neither command nor control us.
Oh, the two conservatives are laughing here.
Look, I thought that you're not going to beat China by trying to be more like China.
That's why the conservatives. And you're there too?
God bless you. That's a great line. I'm stealing that line.
Anytime. And I think the reality is that I thought when we won the elections in November, Republicans get the House, send the White House, I didn't think we'd be state-owned enterprises or price controls on drugs coming in from overseas, or now price floors that we're announcing in relation to China trade. So there seems to be an agenda I thought the Democrats and Scott would be advocating more than I see from a Republican administration.
And as a Republican, that concerns me because it's not going to change. It's just going to become more. The Democrats are probably more excited about this than anybody because they wanted to do this for generations, but they were afraid we'd call them communists for doing it. So there's a moral hazard here. Listen, I understand. I saw the press conference. I understand the logic. I understand the importance of rare earth minerals. I understand the parallels between a strategic oil reserve and a strategic rare minerals reserve. I get all of that. But you can achieve a lot without having the government own those things.
I think one of the things that they were doing today, though, was, I mean, we all remember COVID and the supply chains, right?
Yeah.
And the argument that the administration is making, it's their argument, you could think it's right or wrong, is we need to do these things because we're not going to let China take us hostage and take the world hostage on this whole rare earth mineral deal.
Yeah, but they've got a rare earth mineral deal in regard to Ukraine. Let's accept this proposition. There's nothing traditional.
Oh, so you're good with that now? You're good with that now all of a sudden? See, this is the Democrats and the Republicans sort of crossing all over the place.
It's the Republicans that are confused, not the Democrats and stuff. I'm confused keeping up with their policies and stuff. They're taking interest in private sector companies now. But I will say this. There's nothing, there's nothing traditional about this administration. And so this administration doesn't have an identity. They're all over the place. And given Trump and his following, you can call him a communist, socialist, or say these have these attributes or characteristics, but it's not going to change Donald Trump being Donald Trump and practicing Trumpism, which takes a little bit from every part of the political spectrum, and he gets away with it because he's got the Congress with him, he's got the Senate with him, and he's got MAGA supporters with him.
Do you think there's something there, though, on what they were doing today?
The reality is this. Months ago, when we first began conversations with China and the Trump administration decided that these tariffs were going to be effective, we thought we were really going to be tough with China. The reality of the matter is we haven't really seen that pay off. We've just been in this back and forth posture with tariffs, and now here we are with rare earth minerals and devastation on soybean farmers in terms of the supply chain grab that the Trump administration is claiming. We haven't gotten any further in our trade relationships and our trade policies by what the Trump administration has done, despite all of their promises at the outset.
I disagree with part of that about the trade relationships with generally, but I think you have a little bit of truth there on China. We're still going this back and forth, don't know where we are. I'll be curious to see if that changes because of Gaza. Because the president, I think, has got a little momentum. He's got some confidence. He was on the stage with all these world leaders. Does that mean he's going to be more aggressive with Putin and more aggressive with Xi? I'll be watching for that.
But sorry, go right ahead. No, I was going to say, the problem with China and the U.S. is neither one can afford to hurt one another. They're deeply interdependent with one another. That's why you have this helter-skelter approach.
To Mick's point, though, is Trump going to be more emboldened?
Yeah, I think he probably is. But I think in the first administration, we were tough on China. And I think we did isolate China and get concessions. I worry as well that we've actually been weak on China, whether it comes to TikTok and giving them what they want on TikTok, canceling operations and trade and doing military operations and training exercises in South Korea, Japan, not letting the Taiwan president land in the United States. The posture, despite the rhetoric being tough, the posture is totally different than it was in the first administration.
How about this for a day? CIA covert operations and you two.
Trump is a news-making machine.
Calling it out. Thank y'all.